Sleeper trucks, baby! No, not the ones you lie horizontally in, because after all, I lie vertically. Trucks are known for playing in the mud. Man, that looks like a ton of fun. But rarely, if ever, they're known for straight line performance. But hey, your boy Brad Danger here has got you covered, because I'm gonna cover 5 trucks, and more trucks, plus an honorable mention that are some of the ultimate sleepers. Yeehaw! Let's go! Yeah, we're starting off this list with a wild one. Yeah, they took a regular Ram, put some custom tuned suspension on it, and did a couple other slight modifications, and shoehorned a Viper V10 in it. Yeah, 505 cubic inches, 500 horsepower, all aluminum V10. And ladies and gentlemen, that engine is way different than the cast iron V10 engines that you found in the regular Rams. So much so that hitting the gas from 0 brought 60 miles an hour in 4.9 seconds. Not only that, but this thing could pull 0.86 Gs on the skid pad, which is not bad at all for a full-size truck with an actual payload. And what I think is one of the coolest things about this truck is that it's actually in the Guinness Book of World Records, because NASCAR driver Brendan Goffin set a top speed record of 154.587 miles per hour. And you know what's absolutely wild about that is that that record actually still stands. Oh, and before we move on to the next sleeper truck that you don't want to race, I totally forgot that this one comes in a 6-speed manual transmission and rear wheel drive only. Donuts, anyone? Back in 1999, Ford released a truck that was the ultimate sleeper. And although this thing was based on the regular F-150, this thing had a ton of modifications from the factory, and it just looks awesome. Plus the supercharged 5.4 liter V8 pushing out 380 horse was good for 0 to 60 in an impressive, especially back then, 5.2 seconds. God, the sound of the Eaton blower will never get old. Now, you guys may be sitting there wondering, where have you seen this thing before? Well, it was made popular by Brian O'Connor, AKA Paul Walker, in the Fast and Furious franchise. Which, by the way, if you want to check out why Paul Walker owned 5 of these BMW M3s, click that, do it. And it makes a lot of sense that Brian O'Connor drove this truck in Fast and Furious because it had the most horsepower of any truck in America at that time. There's some way higher horsepower trucks later on in this list. But one thing real quick, because this thing was supercharged, you're only a pulley swap, tune, and exhaust away from hanging with some of the high horsepower beasts of today. Now this is one of the ultimate sleeper trucks ever. So up until this point, the trucks have had the same simple recipe. Throw in a big engine, modify the suspension, and throw on a couple of stickers to add 5 horsepower. But the next truck on this list is more comparable to the Ferraris and Porsches of its time than the 2 trucks we've already talked about. Yeah, the GMC Cyclone is in a league of its own. And this mini truck is ready to eat the unsuspecting enthusiast for lunch. This truck was way ahead of its time. And believe it or not, it was actually the first truck to have ABS brakes. But not only that, pop the hood and you see an intercooled turbocharged V6 putting out 280 horses and 350 foot-pounds of torque. But here's the kicker, it's how it put the power down to the ground. See, the Cyclone had a trick all-wheel drive system. Yeah, if we're talking 0 to 60, it comes in 4.3 seconds. Which, believe it or not, in the early 90s when the 348 TS Ferrari was around and it was brand new, the Cyclone actually would take it from a dig. Yeah, that's how fast this thing was. But there is a catch. The Cyclone wasn't a very good pickup truck, but it was a fantastic performance car. Ford has been in the truck game for a while. In the mid-90s, they had this Lightning. And in the late 90s, early 2000s, they had the Ford Lightning that Brian O'Connor drove. But in 2010, they wanted to come out with something a little bit different. And lo and behold, the Raptor, the most capable off-road vehicle Ford has ever produced. And you're probably thinking to yourself, why did Ford build the Raptor? Because of this badass truck, the Ford F-150 SVT Raptor R, the truck they built to race in the Baja 1000 races. And the regular Raptors look and mean business. That's gotta hurt. Now, the first gen Raptors came with two motors, the 5.4 liter V8 and the 6.2 liter V8, but the 6.2 liter is the only one you want to consider. And this baddie is pushing out 411 horsepower, which means that it's good for 0 to 60 in roughly 6 seconds. And it sounds amazing doing it. Raptor is an off-road vehicle, and so it has long travel suspension and unique springs and shocks to absorb any bumps or potholes that get in the way. But there's one thing really unique about the Raptor. See, to accommodate for larger tires, the Raptor's cab is shared with the normal F-150, but the bed is totally unique to the Raptor. So now you know a little bit more about the Raptor. Just every time that you see an older F-150, make sure you do a double take, because if you mash the gas and it actually is a Raptor, you're gonna have your work cut out for you. While we're on the topic of Raptors, well, might as well put the Gen 2 Raptor as the honorable mention, baby. See, after a 2-year break, not only did Ford put the Raptor on a diet, but they also added more power. Instead of the V8, they actually put a twin-turbo V6 under the hood. And this baby puts out 450 horsepower. And you wanna know something pretty cool? The engine in the Raptor is actually pretty similar to this Ford GT's. I love that car. And the way that you put the power down is via a 10-speed automatic transmission with paddle shifters. I mean, how cool is that in your truck? And Ford dropped 400 pounds by using aluminum, and Fox shocks were installed this time around to add height to get over anything that life throws at you. And the trick thing is that since it's a 2017 or newer, technology is bleeding from this truck. And whether or not you're capable, this rig can pretty much go anywhere and pretty much do anything you ask it to do. Let's face it, it's not the best truck in the world, but man, oh man, it is extremely capable. Okay, this might be the most badass looking truck that I've ever laid eyes on. Just look at this thing. The Rebel TRX is a lot like nothing else. And you know what's absolutely wild about this thing is that it's gonna get a 6.2 liter supercharged V8. What other cars do Dodge put that motor in? I don't know, maybe the Hellcat? And that Hellcat can do things like this. Imagine doing that in a truck? I mean, the writing's on the wall. They literally built this thing to chase after the Raptor, and I think it's gonna do it. I think it's actually going to be that type of truck that, well, Ford should be scared. Just look at the chiseled athletics and the class-leading off-road suspension, and then you couple it with that monster motor. Dodge, take my money. Yeah, seriously, Dodge, take my money, because otherwise I would have spent it on these 6 cheap cars that will make me look rich. Or, well, you should check out what YouTube recommends you watch next. Oh, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe. But either way, you can't lose. And as always, keep living that ideal lifestyle, baby.